Howdy, hi. It is Do Your Job Sports, college football conference, title games, picks, and predictions for week 15. Let's get into the video. All right, first things first, we're going to recap the previous week's results. We go 4-4. I feel like we kind of got hosed on a few of these. Liberty, we got hosed. Iowa, we got hosed. Wisconsin got stomped. I'm talking absolutely steamrolled. And then I don't know why I'm ever taking Clemson. I'm never taking them again with Dabo Swinney as their coach. Good God. All right, let me talk about these right quick, and we'll get on to the picks for next week. First game, we had Ohio minus 14.5. I do not have my phone in front of me, so I'm going off of memory. I think they beat Ball State by 21 points or more, at a minimum of 21 points. That's what's coming to my mind. So that one hits easy, minus 14.5. Duke, this was close. I watched a majority of this game. Duke minus 4.5 hits by the hook. Duke wins by 5 at Wake Forest. Thank you, Duke. I'm going to attribute that win to Cooper Flagg, even though he plays basketball. Thank you, Cooper Flagg. I like you. Memphis plus 13. I think this was the Wednesday or Thursday night game. Wait, was this a Thanksgiving game? Maybe. I don't know. They won outright at Tulane. Forget the plus 13 points. You could have hammered the money line. This was no sweat. I think they won by 10 or more. So shout out to Memphis for getting that game done. Then we had Coastal Carolina. They win by 20 plus. We only had to lay minus 115 on the money line at Georgia State. That is free shmoney. Thank you to the Chanticleers. Then our losers. Kind of already mentioned them, but Clemson, minus 2.5. They lose at home to South Carolina. Dabo Swinney. You cannot lose that game. You just simply can't. If you win that game, you're in the championship and probably in the college football playoffs. But instead, you lose at home, make all of your fans go home depressed, and now you got to do a post-game conference talking about, oh, there should be two ACC teams in the playoffs. No, there shouldn't be. You lost and Miami lost. What are you talking about, two teams? Come on now. Get that out of here. Wisconsin, minus 2. They got destroyed by Minnesota, I think. Yes, it was Minnesota, like 27-7 or something. Never a game. I still like the bet, though. Don't mind it. Liberty minus 2.5. They lose outright. I don't like you, Liberty. I do not like you. Iowa minus 5.5. They win the game at home versus Nebraska, but it is not by enough points as much as I needed. They only win by 3. Those Cornhuskers are really, they're husking up somewhere one shouldn't be husking. I'm going to say that. So that's how we did in the week. Not too bad. I did not sprinkle Memphis money line. So it would have been a winning week if I had sprinkled the money line with Memphis, but my balls were not big enough to do that. I only took the points. So I lost a little bit because of the hook. Gotta love the hook. Or not the hook, the juice. The minus 115 and minus 110. But that's okay. We live on to see another week. Let's get into the video. First game, Western Kentucky, Jacksonville State. I'm taking Western Kentucky plus 4. This game is for the Conference USA Championship. Takes place in Jacksonville, Alabama. The Gamecocks are going to have the crowd behind them. To be honest, I don't think many of Western Kentucky's fans will be traveling, probably just friends and family. These two teams just played the previous week. It was at Western Kentucky, and WKU was able to win that game outright at home, 19-17. They dominated the time of possession. I think they had 33 minutes on the clock there. They were able to throw the ball for 321 yards compared to Jacksonville State, who only threw it for 100. The only aspect that Jacksonville State was able to win was the running the ball side of things. They ran it for 229 yards compared to just the 105 for Western Kentucky, which makes it really interesting considering the Hilltoppers dominated the time of possession. You would think if you run the ball for 230 yards, you'd be able to eat some clock, but I guess not. So not really sure what happened there, but shout out to the Hilltoppers for still managing to keep the clock. Western Kentucky able to pick up 23 first downs compared to Jacksonville State's 13. So they were throwing it, just doing dink and dimes down the field, Brady style, or more like Drew Brees and Michael Thomas style, just 6-yard slant routes that nobody can stop. So give me the Hilltoppers plus 4 on the road at Jacksonville State. Next game, we're taking Boise State minus 3.5 and the over of 58.5. UNLV heads into Boise State to take on these Broncos. These two teams have already matched up this year. Boise State was able to win in Vegas. Final score of that game was 29-24. Both of these teams' offenses can score rapidly. They are ranked 25th and 5th in the nation averaging 447 and 482 yards per game. They average 38 and 41 points per game. They're both coming off of games where they won and scored 30 plus points. The fact that Boise State was already able to go into Vegas and take on these Rebels gives me confidence that they can do it back here at home. I think the over hits, being back in Boise, they should be able to put up a decent amount of points. They're just going to run the ball with JT. I mean, that's what I would do if I was on their team. The dude's a demon, probably going to become runner-up in the Heisman voting, as he should. So give me Boise State and give me the over in this game. Next game, Iowa State, Arizona State. I'm taking the Sun Devils minus 2.5. Iowa State takes on the Sun Devils. I don't think I can fade Arizona State currently, playing with how well they are. Neutral site game here. It's in Arlington, Texas, at the home of the Cowgirls, the AT&T Stadium. Arizona State, they've won 5 games in a row. They're looking like one of the hottest teams in the country. Iowa State has won 3 games in a row, but before that, they had lost back-to-back against Kansas and Texas Tech. These two teams have not played each other this year. They match up very similarly on the stat sheet. They average 429 and 431 yards per game on offense. Their defenses are ranked 26th and 31st, giving up 340 and 345 yards per game. I'm going to give the edge here to Arizona State, just given as though how much, basically the momentum they're riding. Their basketball team, their football team, their entire athletic department is just kicking ass and taking names. So I'm not going to fade them when you're doing that. Also, their running back, Scadaboo, he reminds me of Peyton Hillis. And as a Browns fan, I can't bet against that man. He just gets the ball, puts his head down, and runs into anybody who's in front of him. I like that. I can bet behind a guy like that. So give me the Sun Devils minus 2.5. Let's get it. Next game we're looking at, it is Tulane and Army. I'm taking Army plus 4.5. I will be backing our boys in the AAC Championship. This game is taking place at West Point. These cadets are going to be going insane for their guys on the field. I love it when they pan to the audience and you just see like a bunch of dudes that all have the same haircut. They're all wearing the same stuff and they're just going ballistic. And you know they're dead sober. So it's like, man, you guys are nuts. And you're like, wow, these are the guys that go out there and defend our country. And you're like, damn straight. Wouldn't have it any other way. These boys are psychotic and I like that. Tulane coming off of a 10-point loss at home to Memphis. So you give me the Army at home angle, plus the fact that Tulane just got curb stomped at their own place. Hammer spot, Army plus 4.5. Army 10-1 on the year. Their only loss coming at home to Notre Dame. Kind of expected. Notre Dame's been looking like a clout demon since they lost at home to, who was that, Northern Illinois earlier in the year. If they didn't have that loss to Northern Illinois, they probably would be the #1 team in the country. They have some good wins this year. They just lost to NIU at home, which is brutal. Anyway, other than that loss for Army, which isn't even that bad of a loss, I think they lost by like 30 points, they've looked really good. These two offenses both like to run the ball a lot. Army, no surprise, obviously. They're ranked first in rushing yards a game at 312. Tulane is ranked 12th at 213 yards per game. Defenses are ranked 9th and 12th, giving up 322 and 306 yards. Army's main angle is going to be managing the clock, and they have to contain Tulane's running back, Mekhi Hughes. He's a beast. He has 7 games this season of 100-plus yards. He almost has 200 in 2 games. If they can contain him, keep him around the 100 mark, even if he gets to like 120, 130, that's fine. Just don't let this dude torch you for like 200 yards, because then you ain't going to be able to win the football game. So give me Army, Jesus, plus 4.5 at home. Let's get it. Next game, it is Ohio and Miami of Ohio. I'm taking Ohio and the Bobcats plus 2.5. They meet up here in Detroit, probably the worst location for a championship game, but hey, whatever. They determine the winner of the MAC. These two teams have already played this year. They played in Oxford, which is home of Miami, and then Miami won it 30-20. Ohio, they've won their last 5 games since the Miami loss. None of them have been close. They beat Buffalo by 31, Kent by 41, Eastern Michigan by 25. They won a road game at Toledo by 17, very impressive. Then they beat Ball State at home by 21. I think these boys are quite pissed off. They went into Miami and lost, so I'm going to take the Bobcats plus 2.5. Miami of Ohio, they've won 7 games in a row, majority of them not being close as well. Ohio has the slight advantage on offense, averaging 401 yards per game compared to Miami, who averages just 375. Their defenses are ranked 13th and 14th in the country, giving up 324 and 323 yards per game. I think you got two really evenly matched football teams here at a neutral site venue. There's going to be just as even amount as fans for both teams. So I'm going to take the dog here if I'm catching 2.5 points. I like that better than laying it. So give me Ohio plus 2.5. Next game, Georgia, Texas. I'm taking Texas minus 2.5. They meet up here for the second time this year. Maybe this time Texas will be able to block someone on the Georgia defensive line, because if you watched round one, it was brutal. Everybody was getting home for that Georgia defense. They couldn't block anyone. They tried Quinn Ewers at quarterback. They tried Manning at quarterback. It did not matter. They were getting sacked a bajillion times. Their first matchup, Georgia won 30-15. They created chaos for the Longhorns quarterbacks. They got home 7 times for sacks. This is still Texas's only loss on the year. I think they're going to be able to scheme better, hopefully figure out how to block some dudes on offense, and then they should not get destroyed by Georgia. Since that Texas win, Georgia has not looked the same. Period, point blank, end of story. Carson Beck, he's either looking like a Heisman candidate or he's looking like one of the worst quarterbacks in college football. Georgia Tech coming off of a defensive game where they gave up 27 points Georgia's coming off the game to Georgia Tech where they gave up 27 points in regulation. Then obviously there was that crazy 8 overtime nonsense where they won the game 44-42. You could argue that Georgia shouldn't even be here. Georgia's wins this year have not looked good. Minus their couple solid wins, they've looked very suspect. It's simply dependent on how good Carson Beck plays. Carson Beck could come in here and throw for 350 yards and 4 touchdowns, or he could throw for 86 yards and 3 interceptions, because that's just who he is. He's dating one of the Cavender twins, so at least her girlfriend is very attractive, but on the football field, your quarterback stock has plummeted this year because you suck. So for that reason, give me Texas minus 2.5, revenge game, and they have the better quarterback. Next game, Marshall and the Thundering Herd take on Louisiana and the Raging Cajuns. I'm taking the Cajuns minus 5.5. All right, this is a true road game for Marshall as they go into Lafayette to take on the Cajuns. I think they're about to get messed up. The Cajuns have won 8 out of their last 9 games. They are one of the best offenses in the country. Louisiana 10-2 on the season. They have the 19th ranked offense in the country, averaging 455 yards per game. Marshall is ranked 80th, averaging just 390 a game. The Cajuns also have the better defense, giving up just 355 yards a game, compared to Marshall giving up 406. All 3 of Marshall's losses have come on the road this season, so the fact that this is a true home game for the Cajuns could make a very large difference in this game. I do not think Marshall is going to be able to keep up with the high-scoring offense that Louisiana's got, so I'm going to take the Cajuns at home minus 5.5 to lock up the championship. I think home field plays a big part in this game. Do not think the Thundering Herd will be traveling here. They ain't got it like that. They are not built that different. Next game we're looking at, it is the battle for the Big Ten Championship. Penn State, Oregon. I'm taking Oregon minus 3.5. Now, one interesting thing here, they meet up in Indianapolis, which is much, much closer to Penn State than it is Oregon. But I don't really care. I think Oregon fans will travel. I'm really not sure if Penn State they'll probably travel. It's not that far of a drive. I'm not sure exactly how far it is, but I guess under 7 hours, maybe 8 hours. You just got to go across Ohio, which can't be too fun, but it can't be that far of a drive. Oregon, obviously, you're taking a plane, but I still think they travel. It's a big enough game. I think they do it. Oregon, 12-0 on the year, coming off of a 28-point win at home against Washington. Both of these teams pretty similar when it comes to stats. They average 450 and 458 yards per game. Their defenses are ranked 4th and 7th nationally, giving up just 14 and 16 points per game. The main angle here is that James Franklin, Penn State's head coach, never wins the big games. He is 13 and 27 against ranked opponents since his time at Penn State. Whether it's Ohio State, Michigan, or some big non-con game, he just doesn't win. That's what he's known for. His team gets up for the middle games or the less important games in the Big Ten, but against ranked opponents, good teams like Oregon, they just don't get it done. So I'm going to back Oregon here. You have a veteran quarterback with Gabriel. You have one of the best defenses in the country. You're at a neutral site game. Give me the Ducks, minus 3.5. James Franklin goes down again. He probably gets fired. I could easily see Franklin being fired if he loses this game and then they lose round 1 of the football playoffs. He deserves to be fired because he sucks. He's not very good. Final game, Clemson, SMU. I'm taking SMU minus 2.5. The main angle in this one is that Clemson sucks and SMU has been rolling. So we are going to continue with that for this game. Clemson coming off of a loss at home to South Carolina by 3 points. They only managed to score 14 points despite having 419 yards of offense. Clemson realistically had 2 weeks to prepare for that football game because the previous week they played the Citadel. You can just rock out your backups and they'll go out there and beat the Citadel. The fact you can only score 14 points after having 2 weeks to prepare for that South Carolina game is horrible. And you were at home. That is egregious from Clemson and Dabo Swinney. SMU's offense ranked 24th nationally, averaging 447 yards per game. That's good enough for almost 40 points a game as well. Their defense, really solid, ranked 34th, giving up just 347 yards per game. After watching Clemson lose at a must-win game at home, I just can't back them. This is a neutral site. SMU, much better record, better offense. Give me SMU, 2.5, lock it up. And that's going to do it for me and this video. I appreciate you all watching and tuning in. There's a few linked in the descriptions if you guys want to check out BetMGM or join the Discord. Discord's free, obviously, never going to have to do anything there. And then BetMGM is $1,500 in free bets if you want to deposit there and get going. So, I appreciate y'all watching, and I'll catch y'all in the next video. Peace.